The story begins with a boy trapped inside an underground lift, his memory completely gone. Suddenly he heard a strange sound coming from a box beside him. When he looked closely, he saw a pig inside the box. Confused and frightened, the boy couldn't understand what was happening. Moments later, the lift reached the surface. As it stopped, a group of boys surrounded him and welcomed him. One of them, named Gally, reached out his hand and pulled him out of the lift. But the boy, terrified and disoriented, suddenly ran away at full speed. After running for some distance, he realized that the entire area was surrounded by giant walls. There was no way out. The boys caught him and locked him inside a cage. The leader of the group, Albie, came and asked him a few questions. The boy replied, "I don't remember anything." Albie calmly explained that memory loss was normal. No one there could remember their past. Everyone only remembered their own names, nothing else. And even that memory came back after a day or two. When the boy promised not to try escaping again, Albie released him. He then took the boy on a tour of the area. During the tour, Albie explained that they all lived there and worked together to survive. They built shelters, hunted for food, and managed everything they needed to stay alive. Whatever extra supplies they needed came through the same lift, which they called the box. Every month, new supplies and one new boy were sent up in the box, but no one knew who was sending them or why they were trapped there. While exploring, the boy noticed a massive stone door built into one of the walls. Albie immediately told him about the 3 main rules of the glade. Never harm anyone, never go beyond the walls, and never under any circumstances enter that door. Later, when Albie left, a boy named Chuck came to keep him company. But the new boy couldn't stop staring at that mysterious door. He wanted to know what was hidden behind it. Soon after, he saw 2 boys, Ben and Minho, coming out from the door. He was shocked. Albie had clearly said no one was allowed in there. Chuck then explained that only a few boys could enter. They were called runners. Their job was to explore the maze behind the door and find a way out. Hearing this, the boy became even more curious. Unable to control his curiosity, he went closer to the door to examine it, but Gally suddenly shoved him hard to stop him, making him fall to the ground. The boy got angry and shouted at everyone. Before he could say more, the huge door slowly closed on its own with a loud thud. That evening, a welcome party was held to celebrate the arrival of the new boy, but instead of warmth, many of the boys shouted and mocked him. During the gathering, another boy named Newt explained that every morning at sunrise, the runners entered the maze to map it and look for an escape route. For the last 3 years, they had searched endlessly, but no one had found a way out yet, and every runner had to return before nightfall. If someone failed to do so, they were forced to spend the night inside the maze. And until now, not a single person had ever returned alive after spending a night there, because terrifying creatures called grievers lived inside that maze. The new boy wanted to become a runner at any cost, but Newt told him that runners are chosen based on their special skills and abilities. Suddenly, the new boy got pushed accidentally by Gally and his friend, who were wrestling nearby. Gally then challenged the new boy to a wrestling match. The rule was simple: whoever threw the other person out of the circle would win. The new boy agreed immediately. As soon as the match began, Gally started showing off his strength and skill. Thomas tried his best to fight back, but Gally kicked him hard, making him fall. His head hit the ground with great force, but strangely, that hit triggered his lost memories, and he suddenly remembered his real name, Thomas. That same night, Thomas had a strange dream, and his dream, he was sometimes running, sometimes trapped inside a lab, and there was a woman's voice repeating the words, "Wicked is good." The next morning, Albie took Thomas to a wall where the names of all the boys were written. Thomas noticed that some of the names were crossed out. Albie explained that those were the names of the boys who were no longer among them, the ones who had died. Later, Thomas went into the forest to collect some supplies. There, he saw skeletons hanging from trees. Suddenly, he met Ben, who was acting very strange. Before Thomas could react, Ben attacked him. Thomas hit Ben on the head with a skeleton bone to escape, then ran as fast as he could, calling for help. Ben kept chasing him without stopping. Luckily, Thomas reached back to the camp in time, where Newt struck Ben hard on the head to stop him. They captured Ben and noticed a strange-looking wound on his stomach. Seeing this, they locked him inside a cage. Albie then told Thomas that Ben was actually turning into something else, going through a process called the changing. It happened when someone was stung by the grievers inside the maze, but this was the first time it had ever happened during daylight. Seeing Ben's condition getting worse, they pushed him inside the maze just before the doors closed. That night, Thomas had another dream. He saw the same woman again inside the lab, and this time there was also a girl with him, part of the same experiment. The next morning, Thomas noticed that Albie had gone inside the maze even though he wasn't a runner. Newt explained that Albie went in to follow Ben's footprints and find the spot where he was bitten. He also told Thomas that Albie was the first person to ever arrive in this place, and he had survived an entire month here alone before any of the other boys came through the lift. That evening, everyone grew worried because Albie and the other runners still hadn't returned. They all stood near the maze door, waiting anxiously. After some time, they saw Mino coming coming toward them. He was carrying an injured Albie on his shoulder. Before Mino could reach the gate, the massive doors began to close. Everyone panicked, realizing they wouldn't make it out in time. Without thinking twice, Thomas ran straight into the maze to save them. The door is shut behind him instantly. Inside, Thomas saw Albie lying unconscious and quickly understood that he had been bitten by a griever. To protect him, Mino had knocked him out. Just then, they heard the terrifying roar of a griever approaching. Thomas wanted to save Albie no matter what, but Mino said it was impossible. Once a person was stung, there was no coming back. Thomas refused to give up. He noticed thick vines covering a nearby wall, and with Mino's help, tied Albie between those plants to hide him. As they worked, a griever suddenly crawled close. Seeing it, Mino ran for his life, but Thomas stayed behind and hid behind the trees. The creature didn't notice Albie or Thomas. From his hiding spot, Thomas realized something shocking. The griever wasn't a living monster, it was a machine. It was built to look terrifying, but was actually a robot. Once the griever moved away, Thomas returned to check on Albie, but then he felt something on his shoulder. When he looked up, another griever was right in front of him. It attacked immediately, forcing Thomas to run as fast as he could. He knew running wouldn't be enough to survive. Thinking quickly, Thomas jumped onto the vines growing along the wall. The griever leapt after him, but its claws got stuck in the vines, giving Thomas a few seconds to escape. Just then, Mino returned to help. Thomas noticed the closing walls nearby and got an idea. Using the narrow space to his advantage, he lured the griever toward it. When the walls slammed shut, the massive creature was crushed instantly. The next morning, everyone was shocked. Thomas and Mino had returned alive, carrying Albie with them, something no one had ever done before. Mino told the group that, thanks to Thomas's quick thinking, they had managed to kill a griever. Later, a meeting was held. Gally demanded that Thomas be punished for breaking the rules, but Mino argued that Thomas should become a runner because of his bravery and intelligence. Everyone agreed with Mino, except Gally. Suddenly, they heard the sound of the lift rising, which wasn't supposed to happen so soon. When they reached it, they found a girl inside. Thomas froze the moment he saw her. She was the same girl from his dreams. Beside her was a note that read, "She is the last one ever to arrive." Then suddenly, the girl regained consciousness and called out Thomas's name. Moments later, she fainted again, after sending her to a nearby hut. Thomas said he wanted to return to the maze. He still hadn't found the answers to his questions. Hearing this, Mino gathered 3 more runners to go with him. When they entered the maze, they discovered the dead body of a griever. After cutting off one of its legs, they found a strange-looking device attached to it. They brought the device back with them for investigation. Inside the hut, they carefully examined it and noticed the word "wicked" written on it, the same word printed on the supplies that came from the box. It became clear that whoever was sending them supplies was also responsible for creating the grievers. Thomas continued studying the device, while Gally argued that Thomas deserved punishment for breaking so many rules. But Newt disagreed. He said Thomas should spend one more night inside the maze, and if he survived, he would officially become a runner. Later, Mino showed Thomas a large map he had drawn of the maze. It was divided into 8 separate sections, and each section opened in a unique pattern every day. Thomas then noticed the number 7 written on the device. From this, he guessed that the griever must have come from section 7. Around the same time, the girl regained consciousness again. She climbed a watchtower and began throwing objects down at everyone in panic. Thomas rushed to stop her and climbed up to talk to her. The girl said she didn't remember anything except her name, Teresa, and that she had spoken Thomas's name in her sleep, even though she didn't truly know him. After talking for a while, Thomas realized that everything Teresa said matched the visions from his dreams. Then, Teresa pulled out 2 blue bottles from her pocket, both labeled "Wicked." Thomas remembered hearing the phrase "wicked is good" in his dream, so he decided to inject Albie with the serum, hoping it might save him. As soon as he tried to give the injection, Albie screamed in pain, but Teresa seized the moment and injected him anyway. That night, Gally locked Thomas inside a cage for breaking the rules again. Later, Chuck quietly sneaked in and brought him some food. During their talk, Chuck said he wished he could meet his parents one day. He didn't even remember what they looked like, but had made a small doll for them, hoping to give it to them someday. Hearing this, Thomas promised Chuck that he would find a way to get them all out of there. The next morning, as the sun rose, Thomas and Mino quickly entered the maze again. With Mino's help, they reached a section that wasn't supposed to open for another week. But then, their eyes fell on Ben's torn clothes. Seeing them, both Thomas and Mino realized that the griever must have dragged Ben to this place. At that very moment, they suddenly heard a strange sound coming from the device. Thomas felt that maybe it was guiding them somewhere. Following the beeping sound, they began to walk deeper into the maze. With every right turn, the sound grew louder and louder. Eventually, they reached a location Mino had never seen before. A massive bridge stood before them, leading to a solid wall at the far end. As soon as they approached that wall, the device activated and revealed a hidden pathway. Now there was a dark cave in front of them. When they stepped inside, a bright light suddenly appeared disappeared and began scanning their bodies. The next second, the cave started closing rapidly. Seeing this, both of them ran at full speed to escape. Just as they were about to exit the section, a wall collapsed behind them. They narrowly avoided being crushed. They kept running as fast as they could, while the maze around them shifted and transformed right before their eyes. Still, they somehow managed to escape alive and return safely to the colony. As soon as they arrived, they told everyone that they had finally found a possible way out, but Gally wasn't convinced. He argued that it could be a trap and warned everyone not to act recklessly. Thomas and Gally started arguing about it, but their discussion was interrupted when Teresa informed them that Albie had regained consciousness. Hearing this, they immediately rushed to meet him. Albie looked weak but said something shocking, that there was no way out anymore, and Thomas was always their chosen one. Then he asked Thomas why he had come there at all. Before Thomas could answer, they noticed something strange. The maze doors weren't closing that night. Instead, several new paths had opened up. Thomas quickly realized they needed a plan, but there was no time left. The grievers were already heading straight toward them at full speed. Seeing this, everyone began to run for their lives. Screams filled the air as several boys were attacked and dragged away by the grievers. Callie and a few others hid inside the box, while Thomas, Teresa, and some boys hid among the fields. But then one griever grabbed a boy with its long tail. The boy tried to run toward his friends, but one by one, many others fell victim to the monsters. When another griever approached, Teresa threw a burning lamp at it, setting it on fire. Everyone kept running as fast as they could. Suddenly, Albie tripped and fell to the ground. At the same time, a griever was closing in fast. Thomas stood in front of it, holding the device to stop the attack. Meanwhile, the other boys struck the griever from behind, buying them enough time to escape and hide in a nearby hut. But the danger wasn't over yet. In the very next second, a griever crashed through the roof, snatched another boy, and disappeared. The monster then tried to grab Chuck, but Thomas and the others fought back and managed to save him. Unfortunately, before they could react, the creature turned and lifted Albie into the air. After everything was over, when they all came out, they saw that apart from them, only those who had been hiding inside the boxes were left. Immediately, Gally started beating Thomas, blaming him for everything that had happened, but Thomas still didn't have the answers to his questions. So in desperation, he injected himself with the poison of the griever. Moments later, he fainted. While unconscious, he saw the same dream again. He was with Teresa in a lab where experiments were being conducted on young boys. When he regained consciousness, only Teresa was beside him. Some of the boys then told him that in his absence, Gally had taken control of everything and convinced everyone that it was all Thomas's fault. After listening to them, Thomas accepted his mistake. Then he told everyone that, in reality, they were not trapped inside a maze. It was all a test. There was a gate they had to cross to escape, and all of this was being done by a company named Wicked for its experiments. Thomas and Teresa had once worked for Wicked themselves. Later, Thomas and Teresa were taken to Gally, who was crossing out the names written on the wall. Now Gally wanted to send both of them back into the maze, but some of the boys began to believe that maybe Thomas really knew the way out. Taking advantage of this moment, Thomas freed himself from the guards. At that moment, Minho pointed his blade at Gally. Thomas then announced that he and his companions were leaving forever. He said that anyone who wanted to come along was welcome. Gally laughed, thinking no one would go with him, but to his surprise, many of the boys agreed to join Thomas and refused to stay in the maze any longer. After escaping, they finally reached the gate of another section where they encountered another griever. They fought bravely and managed to outsmart the creature, but during the battle, some of the boys fell into a trench. While attacking the monster, Teresa accidentally dropped the device toward the trench. As Chuck went to retrieve it, he spotted another griever climbing up. He shouted a warning, and everyone pushed the monster back into the trench with all their strength. Then two more grievers appeared, killing several boys in the process. Meanwhile, Teresa and Chuck used the device to open the door, revealing another gate that required an 8-digit code. Thomas quickly realized that the code must be related to the sequence of maze sections. Minho began reciting the sequence, but before he could finish, another griever attacked him. Seeing this, another boy jumped on the monster to distract it, which ended up saving Minho's life. As soon as Minho recited the entire sequence, the door opened, and immediately after that, all the maze walls began to close. After crossing through the door, they entered a tunnel that looked futuristic, filled with bright lights. When they finally reached the end of the tunnel, they found themselves inside a lab. There, they saw the dead bodies of many scientists and guards lying on the floor. In the main room of the lab, several cameras were installed everywhere. From this, they realized that the scientists had been watching their every move, 24 hours a day. When Thomas pressed a nearby button, a video suddenly started playing in front of them. In the video appeared the same woman Thomas had seen in his dreams, Dr. Ava. She was actually the director of Wicked. In the message, Dr. Ava explained that many years ago, the sun had completely dried up the earth, making it impossible for humans to survive. After that, a deadly virus known as the flare spread across the planet, but over time, a new generation developed some resistance against it. To study this phenomenon, the organization created the maze experiment. After delivering her message, Dr. Ava was shown to be killed. While everyone was still trying to process what they had just seen, Gally appeared there. Teresa immediately noticed that he had been infected. He suddenly raised his weapon and fired at them, but before he could do more harm, Minho threw his spear and killed him. Unfortunately, the bullet fired by Gally had already hit Chuck. As Chuck lay dying, he thanked Thomas while holding onto the small doll Thomas had made for him. At that emotional moment, a door opened and several armed soldiers rushed in. They rescued the survivors, escorted them outside, and loaded them onto a helicopter. As the helicopter took off, it was revealed that Dr. Ava was still alive. According to her, Thomas had fallen perfectly into their trap. This movie has 2 more parts after this one, so if you want to see their continuation, help me reach the target of 100 likes. And if you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to the channel. Your support truly means a lot and keeps me motivated to bring you more amazing stories like this.